What's good, Culturalists? Today we're taking it back to the Roc, a label that helped redefine hip-hop in the late 90s and 2000s with a roster so stacked it felt like every week somebody new was going platinum. From the corner office to the corner block, Roc-A-Fella wasn't just a label, it was a movement. But what happened after the champagne dried up and the dynasty split? In this episode, we're checking in on the artists who carried the Roc chain to see who stayed relevant, who pivoted, and who vanished completely. Now, before we get into it though, if Roc-A-Fella raised you like it did us, make sure to check out our Roc-A-Fella Raised Me hoodie and tee. We've got Death Row, Cash Money, G-Unit, and more labels on the way, so stay tapped in. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and tap into our Patreon, where you'll get the full, early, unedited reaction to Q's first time hearing American Gangster. Now that's a slept-on gem that's aged like Duce. Alright, enough of that. Let's get into it. Where are they now? Roc-A-Fella Records. Amil. Amil was supposed to be the first lady of Roc-A-Fella. After showing up on Jay-Z's Can I Get Her and holding her own next to Hov and Ja, the Brooklyn rapper was everywhere. Popping up on Volume 3, Bleak album, and that dope-ass Sprite commercial from back in the day. In 2000, she dropped her debut All Money Is Legal, but despite the Roc's backing and features from Beyonce and Hov, the album didn't hit like expected. After that, Amil pretty much disappeared from the spotlight. She parted ways with Roc-A-Fella and the industry quietly moved on. Over the years, she's resurfaced here and there, dropping a couple of indie tracks and even writing a reflective blog post about her time with the label. She's kept a low profile, choosing family and faith over chasing the spotlight. Amil never got the second shot a lot of her Roc peers did, but for a brief moment she stood tall next to Titans, and that counts. Whether you call her underrated or a missed opportunity, she'll always be part of that golden era when the Roc could do no wrong. Christian was a curveball in the Roc-A-Fella roster. Two brothers from the Bay Area, they brought that smooth, cinematic soul that felt more like a Motown throwback than something from the streets of Marcy. Their 1996 single Full of Smoke was a whole vibe. Moody, smoky, late-night music that stood out on a roster full of spitters and street poets. They dropped their debut, Ghetto Serrano, in '97, and it had some strong records, with writing and production credits handled in-house. The project didn't blow up, but it got critical love and built them a cult fan base. Still, Christian was always a bit of an outlier at Roc-A-Fella, and they didn't release much under the label. After their brief run, the group largely disappeared from the mainstream. One member, Alan Anthony, reemerged for a quick second to lace Freeway's banger All Right, but nothing much aside from that. They never made a full comeback and not much is known about their current moves. Christian may not be mentioned in the same breath as State Property or the Young Guns, but they added some real R&B texture to an otherwise hard-edged label. Definitely a hidden gem in the Roc catalog. MOP joining Roc-A-Fella always felt like a surprise move, but it made perfect sense. The Brownsville duo had been tearing up underground and street circuits for years with records like Annie Up and Cold as Ice. They were raw, loud, and didn't care about crossover appeal. When they signed to Roc-A-Fella in 2003, it felt like a street alliance more than a label move. There was plenty of hype. They were featured on Roc Army freestyles, toured with the crew, and were supposed to drop Ghetto Warfare under the Roc banner. But due to the label's inner turmoil and the impending breakup between Jay, Dame, and Biggs, the album got shelved and eventually leaked years later. After the Roc era, MOP went back to doing what they always did, making street bangers. They released indie projects, collaborated with DJ Premier, and even signed with G-Unit for a short minute. Lil Fame also worked behind the boards producing for other artists. MOP was never about mainstream fame, they just wanted to knock your head off with a verse. Roc-A-Fella didn't pan out for them long term, but the brand association added another stripe to their already legendary underground run. Ruel was Roc-A-Fella's secret R&B weapon, a silky-voiced crooner from South Carolina who never quite got the shine he deserved. You probably heard him singing hooks for Hov, Bleak, and Freeway, especially on joints like It's Obvious and the Blueprint 2 cut All Around the World. For a label heavy with rappers, Ruel brought balance. The plan was for him to be the face of Roc's R&B division. He recorded an entire debut album called The Remedy around '01, but due to internal shakeups, it never saw an official release. Instead, Ruel became the go-to hook guy, kind of like a precursor to what Ty Dolla $ign would eventually be. Always delivering, just never in the spotlight. In the years after Roc-A-Fella's fall, Ruel kept working. He dropped independent singles, collaborated with Ninth Wonder, and stayed close to the underground R&B world. But that major breakout never came. Fans still ask about him on forums and Reddit threads, and for good reason. The talent was real. Ruel was proof that Roc-A-Fella could do smooth just as well as they did street. True Life. True Life was supposed to be the next torchbearer out of NYC. Signed to JayZ in the mid-2000s during his Def Jam presidency, True was billed as the future of rock. Street, stylish, and authentically New York. He had a couple of standout mixtapes and got cosigns from Hove and others, but his debut album under Roc-La Familia never dropped. Legal trouble derailed everything. In 2009, True Life was sentenced to 8 years for his role in a fatal stabbing. That effectively ended his Roc-A-Fella chapter before it ever fully started. During his time inside, the industry moved on and the Roc-A-Fella brand itself dissolved. But in a rare second act, True came home in 2006 and started recording again. He signed a deal with Future's Free Bands and dropped Walking on Water in 2017. He stayed active since, dropping music independently and tapping into the Latin and NYC scenes. True Life never got to live up to the original hype, but to his credit, he came back swinging. His rock run was short, but in a different timeline, he could have been a major player in that post-Hove NYC power vacuum. Tiara Marie. Tiara Marie was introduced as the next princess of Roc-A-Fella, young, talented, and co-signed by both JayZ and L.A. Reid. Her 2005 debut single, Make Her Feel Good, was everywhere, and with a look and sound that sat between street smart and glamorous, she felt like a can't miss. Her self-titled debut album dropped under Roc-A-Fella and Def Jam, and while it had a few moments, it didn't perform as expected. She was quickly dropped from the label, and Rihanna, who was signed around the same time, took off instead. Tiara has since been candid about how that moment shaped her, calling it a lesson in industry politics. Still, she didn't fade. She turned to acting, appearing in films like Lottery Ticket, and became a reality TV regular on Love and Hip Hop Hollywood. She's also kept releasing music independently, even if it's flown under the radar. Her Roc-A-Fella story might have ended quickly, but Tiara never completely left the spotlight. She's become more of a personality than a chart topper, but she's still here, living, learning, and never shying away from the spotlight. State Property. State Property was the Rock's street army, a Philly collective handpicked by Beanie Sigel that included Freeway, Young Guns, PD Crack, Oskino, and more. Their music was gritty, unfiltered, and straight from the trenches. They dropped 2 group albums and starred in a pair of cult classic movies that turned Get Down or Lay Down into a movement. But once Roc-A-Fella splintered, the crew scattered. Internal beefs and legal issues slowed the momentum. Still, the legacy held strong. Beanie and Freeway continued releasing solo projects, PD Crack stayed active with mixtapes, and fans still revisit the Chain Gang Volume 2 like it dropped last week. These days, you'll catch SP reunions here and there, usually in Philly or at nostalgic tour stops. Their impact on East Coast rap, especially in the early 2000s, is stamped in stone. No rock story is complete without them. DJ Clue. Before streaming and YouTube, DJ Clue was the gatekeeper. His mixtapes broke records, premiered exclusives, and made him a street A&R before that was even a thing. At Roc-A-Fella, he was more than a DJ. He was a tastemaker with his own imprint, Desert Storm, that brought in acts like Fabulous. After the rock run, Clue kept spinning, on radios, in clubs, and across the mixtape scene. He was a part of Power 105.1 in NYC for years and still gets booked worldwide. While he's not as front-facing in today's digital era, his legacy as a pioneer in DJ culture is set in stone. Clue's drops still give people flashbacks. He didn't just play hits, he broke them. Memphis Bleke. Memphis Bleke was always more than Jay-Z's protege. He was the Rock's day one soldier. From coming of age to made, Bleke always held it down. He never quite broke into superstar territory, but he was consistent, loyal, and never needed to be flashy to be effective. After Roc-A-Fella dissolved, Bleke stepped back from the spotlight but stayed close to the business. He founded his own label, Warehouse Music Group, signed with Roc Nation, and now plays more of a mentor role behind the scenes. More recently, Bleke launched the Rock Solid podcast, where he gives fans inside stories from the golden era. He's also active on the nostalgic tour circuit, performing rock classics for the real ones. And don't sleep on that new album he just dropped, Apartment 3D. It's better than you think it is. Look, Bleke may not have the plaques Hove does, but his name means something. He's Roc-A-Fella through and through. The Diplomats. The Diplomats came into Roc-A-Fella like a Harlem hurricane, loud, flashy, and unapologetically themselves. Cameron, Jim Jones, Juelz Santana, and Freaky Zeke flipped pink polos, bandanas, and chip-on-the-shoulder bars into a full-blown movement. Albums like Diplomatic Immunity and Cam's Come Home With Me brought street politics and swagged out flexing into one package, changing the sound and the look of early 2000s hip-hop. But internal tensions and the Roc split sent Dipset in different directions. Cam and Jimmy had public fallouts, Juelz's output slowed down considerably, and Freaky did a bid. Still, they all kept working. Jim Jones went from hype man to hitmaker with We Fly High and has arguably had the strongest solo run in recent years, still dropping solid albums. Cam'ron pivoted into acting, business, and now sports commentary with It Is What It Is, while Juelz has bounced back after legal issues and jail time, teasing a long-awaited return to music. Dipset reunited in spurts, most notably for the Diplomatic Ties album and their versus battle with the Lox, which didn't go in their favor but still reminded folks of their legacy. They may not move like a unit anymore, but the impact is undeniable. Dipset will always be forever. Freeway. Freeway came into Roc-A-Fella with one of the most distinct voices in the game, high-pitched, urgent, and unmistakably Philly. After catching ears on Jay-Z's 1-900 Hustler, he made a name for himself with his debut 2003's Philadelphia Freeway, produced largely by Just Blaze and Kanye. From What We Do to Flip Side, the album was a certified street classic and positioned Free as one of the Roc's most respected spitters. He dropped solid follow-ups with Free at Last and Stimulus Package with Jake 1, but the Roc breakup and label politics slowed his momentum. Despite that, Free stayed consistent. Even when the spotlight dimmed, he just kept grinding, whether on independent projects, state property reunions, or popping up on guest verses. In 2015, Freeway faced his biggest challenge yet, kidney failure. He publicly battled the illness while waiting for a transplant, using his platform to raise awareness about organ donation in the Black community. In 2019, he successfully received a new kidney. These days, Free is focused on his health, family, music, and community work. He's a local hero in Philly, and while the mainstream may have moved on, the respect he commands in real rap circles is still intact. Nory. By the time Nory linked with Roc-La Familia, he was already a certified name off the strength of CNN, solo hits like Super Thug, and the unexpected reggaeton wave he helped usher in. Signing with Roc-La Familia in 2006 felt like a culture-forward move. He brought a different kind of energy to a label stacked with spitters. Under the Roc banner, he dropped Nory, La Familia, diving deep into Latin sound at a time when the genre was still crossing over. The project didn't hit like his earlier albums, but it marked a pivotal moment for Latin influence in hip-hop. Nory was ahead of his time, but Roc-La Familia never fully figured out how to market him in that lane. After leaving the Roc umbrella, Nory reinvented himself again, not just as a rapper, but as a full-blown media personality. Today, he's one of the biggest names in hip-hop podcasting with Drink Champs, where legends come to tell stories and celebrate the culture. From Left Rack City to Revolt TV, Nory has stayed relevant through reinvention. He's loud, unpredictable, and forever entertaining, and even if his rock stint was short, he always finds a way to land on his feet. Young Guns. Young Chris and Neef Buck came in during the second wave of Roc-A-Fella dominance. As part of state property, they had the Philly swagger and were seen as the next generation. Their debut, Tough Love, had heat. No Better Love was a radio smash, and the whole album still holds up. After the breakup, the duo slowed down. Chris dropped a few solo tapes and had a short-lived push from Jay post-rock under Roc Nation, but nothing major stuck. Neef took the independent route and kept grinding in the Philly scene. Nowadays, you might catch them on tour with state property reunions, but the momentum they had in 04 never fully returned. Thankfully, just recently, Young Chris dropped a collab tape with Dave East that's actually pretty solid. Y'all make sure to check that out. Even still, the Young Guns era gave us some real rock gems. They had Next. It just came at a time when the dynasty was already starting to fall apart.
Remember those albums that changed everything? The ones you played on repeat? The soundtracks of your story. Now, they're not just memories, they're wearable. 8 classic albums pressed into every hoodie and tee. For the ones who grew up on that real hip-hop, and the ones who are still catching up, this is more than merch, it's a tribute. Wear what raised you. Available now at shop.culturalisttheory.com.
Kanye West. Kanye came into Roc-A-Fella as the backpack-wearing producer begging for a shot to rap. After the college dropout, nobody questioned him again. From there, it was history in the making. Late Registration, Graduation, 808s, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasies, all classics in their own right. Ye didn't just push the sound of hip-hop forward, he bent it to his will, fusing genres, aesthetics, and ideas that most artists wouldn't dare touch. But the same ambition that made him brilliant also made him volatile. Public outbursts, rants, MAGA hats, anti-Semitic comments, and a string of business losses in the 2020s shook up his image. Adidas severed ties, wiping out a massive chunk of his wealth, but still Ye's influence on music, fashion, and culture is undeniable. Recently, he dropped Vultures 1 with Ty Dolla $ign and teased a trilogy rollout. The jury's still out on whether that is gonna happen. The music still sparks debate. Some say he's lost his magic and others say he's just too ahead. But one thing's clear, Kanye will always be a lightning rod. Love him or hate him, you have to talk about him. And that's exactly what Ye has always wanted. Just Blaze. If Roc-A-Fella had a sound, Just Blaze was one of the architects. Alongside Kanye West, he helped define the era with those high-energy soul samples, hard drums, and epic intros that made every verse feel like a moment. From Jay-Z's Blueprint to Freeway's debut, Just was behind some of the Roc's most iconic tracks. After the Roc split, Just didn't fall off, he expanded. He laced hits for T.I., Game, Eminem, and even Beyonce, proving he wasn't just tied to one sound or coast. He also got deep into the DJ world, spinning sets globally and curating events that blurred the lines between hip-hop nostalgia and future beats. In recent years, he's focused more on tech, gaming, and building out his creative brand. He pops up on panels, podcasts, and versus-style beat battles, still sharp and still respected. While he doesn't flood the game with new tracks like he once did, when Just Blaze drops something, it still feels like an event. Quiet as kept, he's one of the most important producers of his generation. And whether or not the average fan knows it, the culture still runs on sounds he helped build. Beanie Sigel. At his peak, Beanie Sigel was the voice of the streets. His delivery was raw, his pain was palpable, and his pen didn't miss. The Truth, The Reason, and The Becoming are still held in high regard by fans who love gritty storytelling and no-frills lyricism. He wasn't just a rapper, he was Roc-A-Fella's enforcer, the muscle behind Jay's flash and Dame's bark. But that same energy got him caught in a cycle of legal issues, label disputes, and jail time. After the Roc split, his solo career stalled. He reconciled and fell out with Jay more than once, and his independence didn't lead to the same impact. In 2014, a shooting left Beanie with serious health issues, damaging his lungs and vocal cords. His signature voice hasn't been the same since. But in recent years, Beans has made guest appearances, teased new music, and even claimed Kanye offered to gift him millions for coining Yeezy. Today, Beanie's legacy rests on what he has already gave us, and for many, that's enough. However, rumor has it he's working with AI to recreate his voice and drop a project. Let us know in the comments if you'd be here for it. And yes, in the meantime, we are working on that Beanie Sigel solo album's rank list, so stay tuned for that. Dame Dash. Dame Dash was the engine behind Roc-A-Fella's bravado. He brought the hustle, the vision, and the pressure that turned a boutique label into a cultural force. He fought for his artists, kept ownership top of mind, and made sure the Roc felt like a family, until the empire crumbled. After the split with Jay, Dame took the independent route, launching ventures into fashion, film, and media. But the road wasn't easy. Legal battles, child support issues, and back taxes haunted him for years. Multiple businesses were lost, and he publicly admitted to financial struggles, even asking courts to lower his payments due to debt. Still, Dame never stopped betting on himself. He pushed art galleries, launched his own streaming service, and became a loud voice for Black entrepreneurship and ownership. His delivery may rub some the wrong way, but the message, consistent. In the world of polished PR and industry puppets, Dame's rawness stands out. He's still vocal, still disruptive, and still preaching the same game he was in '99, even if the world took a minute to catch up. Dame may not have the billions, but his impact? That's priceless. He made sure we knew our value before it was cool. Biggs. Kareem Biggs Burke was the quiet muscle behind Roc-A-Fella Records. While Dame was the mouthpiece and Hove was the star, Biggs was the low-key strategist, moving smartly behind the scenes and helping turn the Roc from a risky indie into a cultural institution. He never jumped in front of the cameras or tried to be flashy, but make no mistake, his imprint is all over the legacy. After the Roc split, Biggs kept things private, but in 2012 he made headlines when he was sentenced to 5 years for his alleged involvement in a marijuana distribution case. Once released, he came back with purpose. linking back up with the culture on his own terms. He's since launched Roc 96, a lifestyle brand paying tribute to the original Roc-A-Fella era, and been involved with storytelling on the production side, helping shape films and series that honor hip-hop's roots. He's also active in prison reform conversations and mentorship for young creatives. Biggs might have been the silent partner back then, but now he's speaking up. Not with noise, but with vision. He's proof that you can build a legacy, take your hits, and still come back to push the culture forward. JayZ. JayZ didn't just build Roc-A-Fella, he transcended it. After the split, he became Def Jam president, signed Rihanna, patched things up with Nas, and kept elevating. Every few years, he'd drop an album to remind folks the throne was still his, and most of the time he proved it. But the real flex is how he moved beyond rap. He built Roc Nation into a full-blown entertainment empire, launched Tidal, partnered with the NFL, invested in everything from cannabis to champagne, and became hip-hop's first billionaire. The same guy who once asked, "Can I live?" now owns half the block and leases out the rest. He rarely does interviews, but when he talks, it makes headlines. Whether it's Grammy speeches, social justice work, or popping out on a Khaled feature, he controls his moments. And while he may not rap as often, Jay's still outside. Whether it's narrating culture or low-key backing billion-dollar deals, he remains a blueprint for evolution. Not many go from corner hustler to corporate mogul without compromising the art. Jay did that. And in true Hov fashion, he made it look easy. Yo, that's the rundown on Roc-A-Fella, man. From the chart toppers to the slept-on soldiers, the rise, the fall, and the legacy that still echoes through the culture. If the Roc raised you like it did us, make sure you check out our Roc-A-Fella Raised Me hoodies and tees, available now on the site. Perfect for the real ones who remember what that chain meant. Also, tap into our Patreon where I play American Gangster for Q for the very first time. The full uncut reaction is on there now. Go check it out. Also, don't forget to check out our breakdown of Roc-A-Fella Records albums ranked here. And let us know in the comment what's your top 5. Like, subscribe, and tap in so you guys don't miss the next one. Until then, I'm out.